Thanks for joining me today. Today we are making a very easy Old English recipe, raisin cookie. They are crunchy, they are chewy, they are worth the wait. So let's get started. Okay, we are starting on our old school golden raisin cookies. They can also be called Garibaldi, but they're delicious. I wasn't a fan of raisins until I got into this. So our first step is it uses 1.5 cups of raisins. So you could use whatever variation or blend you'd like. I'm going to use 3/4 of regular raisins and then 3/4 of golden. But I want to let you know that you could also use any dried fruit. I've seen them made. I haven't made them with cherries yet, but I'm going to make those probably a little bit later in the spring. So what you do is you take 1.5 cups, and this dough that we're going to make is a very compact dough that's almost flour to raisins. It's dense. And then we take 1 cup of liquid and we let this cook and then let sit. So I've got some triple sec. If you want to use orange juice, you want to use apple juice, you want to use lemon and water, use what you'd like. I'm going to use triple sec and water because we'll be using the orange in the cookie and the zest of the orange in the cookie. So I'm going to cook this, bring it to a boil, and then I'm going to let it sit for 30 minutes. And as our raisins are cooking, I just want to tell you a little bit about the flour. You could use any flour you had. You could use all-purpose pastry flour or whole wheat flour. I'm going to use that. You could use any one of them, because this is fiberlish. There is fiber in here, 4 grams. There's 1 gram in here, 4 grams in here. This is a softer wheat, which is a red wheat, and it is perfect for pastries. And so that will be our dough. And then we're going to you can use maple syrup or honey for your sugar. You could also use date syrup or grind up a date. And we're also going to use some oats. And I am going to grind these in my spice grinder. So I have a little bit of oats because it adds a really nice consistency. So I only need 1/4 cup. So I'm going to grind those while we wait. Okay, the raisins. The 3/4 cup of each raisin has sat for a half hour in a little bit of triple sec, a little bit of water, and actually squeezed in a little bit of a lemon. So what we're going to do now is add our dry ingredients. Like I said, I'm using the whole wheat pastry flour, which I took over there to measure. And I'm going to use 3/4 cup of that. And I'm using that for incredible texture, softness, and of course the fiber. I'm using 1/4 cup of the oats. And so we're going to add our dry ingredients together. So from here, I'm going to add 1 cup of cornstarch or arrowroot. And I have made these without cornstarch and arrowroot. And they're still good, but since I had it, I'm just going to use it. Then 1/2 teaspoon of baking powder. Okay, 1 tablespoon of coconut sugar. And I don't use any refined, so that is a unrefined coconut sugar that has low glycemic, and it's a really good alternative. I've made it before. It's almost nutty, it's smooth, it's really, really good. So I'm going to just stir that. So we've got our dry ingredients together. And what we're gonna do here is zest in the zest of an orange. You could zest in any citrus really that you had. I have a big orange, which we're going to use as the juice that will help bind this. Makes it delicious. But this orange is a sleeper. It is so fantastic. And you only need like a tablespoon, but I just use the whole orange. Not much more I can get. Okay, and stir that. Now we're going to put in our butter, and we're going to cut this into tablespoons, and we're just going to work that in. It calls for 4 tablespoons. Some of these cookies call for more. I try and modify it. I've made this modified and it comes out just as good. Makes a beautiful amount of cookies, but I try and cut out saturated fats when I can. And we're gonna put those right into that. Now remember, if this was a Cuisinart, you would just put it in there like that. And with your bare hands, you just, or a fork, you start getting this together. Now remember, the butter was cold. You can't use warm butter or that's going to end up not good. This is a pastry. I'm going to start adding my liquids now. So we need 1 teaspoon of vanilla. I make my own vanilla from vodka and vanilla beans, and I let it sit. So that is just old school homemade vanilla. I love it. And 1 egg. Crack that in a bowl. Give it a stir before you put it in. I'm going to add my tablespoon of honey. Now you could use maple syrup or date syrup in that. And we're going to stir that up. Now we need 3½ tablespoons of orange juice, and that will go with the orange rind in here, right? So we're just going to get that juiced. So for what I do with oranges, if you had a juicer, great. If you have some fresh juice, that's great. I just make my own juice. Okay, we're going to see if we have 3½ tablespoons. 1, 2. We've got close to 3, so we need a little bit more orange. I'm going to just squeeze right into there, why not? And then stir that up. Oh, that should have went in there, but that's okay. That's all going in there anyway. Okay, and with your fork, stir that together. It's a humid day where I'm at, and this is a little bit runny, so I'm going to add a little bit more oat flour for binding. Kind of do it and incorporate it. We don't want it to get tough, so we're just going to mix it. And then remember, this goes in the refrigerator or freezer to turn into a dough that we can roll out. And it's a pastry, so you don't want to mangle it. You just want to incorporate it. And because there's butter and it's warm and it's humid, the butter kind of wilts down a little bit, but it will firm up. And if it was too crumbly, then you actually add a little bit more water in, teaspoon by teaspoon, or ½ a teaspoon by ½ a teaspoon. I forgot to add my sea salt, you guys, that was behind this. So I'm just gonna lightly put it in there. Lightly stir it. It's 1/4 of a teaspoon. I'm gonna use a little bit less because my butter was salted. Onto the saran wrap to form kind of like a big pancake or a disc. It's going to be a long rectangle, and the long rectangle is going to then be folded in half with the raisins put on 1/2 of the long rectangle. Okay, I want to get that as flat as I can because we're going to roll it out. Because we use whole wheat swells, it grabs the liquids that are in it. That's why fiber is so good for you, is A, it makes you hungry less because it's filling, and of course the benefits of fiber. See you in about 30 minutes. Okay, the dough has sat in the freezer for about 30 minutes, but I wanted to mention this dough is a little bit different, but it cooks up beautifully because of the raisins and because of the thinness. But if we were doing like a cookie that had like chocolate chips or like a shortbread you have a lot more butter, but I don't want a lot more butter, okay? I want some butter because we're making a very beautiful cookie, but I try and cut it out, and I have been very successful with this recipe. So take your rolling pin, whichever one, whatever kind you have, and we're just going to make a big old square or rectangle, whatever you can use. If you don't have a rolling pin, just something round. Okay, and so what we're going to do, you could go either direction, but the raisins go on half of it. And we're going to press those in, get them all on there. You got a cup and a half of raisins. Look at all the raisins to that dough. Do you know how this is going to bake up? It is so good. And then we're going to flip that, fold that in half, and then I'm going to roll that down again. So you want everybody hooked together. You know, you want to basically make, and then we're going to make rectangles. Okay, so that's what we got. Okay, they're going to go back in the freezer and freeze up until we are ready to bake. And like I said, don't be worried that it looks kind of sticky like that. They come out beautiful. And the trade-off is you save all that butter in your life. Yay! And our dough has chilled. And now we're going to roll them out. And the thing on rolling them out is you can put them on a big cookie sheet, or what I'm going to do is put them in a toaster oven in 2 different batches because it's kind of warm here today. So you want to get these shored up in the angle. Also, preheat your oven at 350 so you can get that ready. These are going to go in for about 12 to 15 minutes based on your goldenness, but also start checking them. You know, your oven might be acting up and you don't want to ruin these beautiful cookies due to a non-friendly oven. So I'm just going to let this rest a minute. It's a little thick here, and I want to use my bench scraper, and I'm going to get that to thin out just a bit. So see you in a second. Okay, so we're going to cut these. We can cut them, we want to cut them about 1.5 by about 2 3/4. You can make them any length you want, but we want, of course, them to be even. So just score them any way you'd like. You don't have to go the whole way to the bottom if you don't want, because then when they come out, you can press the pizza roller through them, or this bench scraper. Okay, now we're gonna do our little egg wash. Looks like an omelet. That goes in there, you won't even see it, but it does increase a shine and a crust. I'm going to look at these at about 5 to 7 minutes, and I might pull them apart if I feel like it. We'll see. Okay, these were in 12 minutes. I used the bench scraper to make just a little bit of division in them, but I think I'm going to put them in for maybe 1 more minute. I am loving that brown on them. That brown is beautiful. So maybe 1 more minute, but they're actually perfect like this. They've gotten darker in the last 30 seconds. And our cookies have cut, and they're soft, so you want to let them firm up. The sugars in them are going to firm up. They're going to be soft and crunchy. That's the beauty. So let them sit and let them get completely cooled off. The cookies came out beautiful, and look at all of those raisins. They are just like globs of caramel. It is so worth your wait. So I want to thank you for taking the time, and please like and subscribe, and I will see you soon. Yum.